Now we have come to the end of all the presentations, and I will open the panel for discussion. So any questions from the floor? Yeah, please.
This is for the pond ash. How much is silica purity is there in our India ashes? Number two, you are using a lot of water for transporting from combustion chamber to the slush pond area. Why don't you have a dry system? Sawdust is being transferred by air, so you can get save your water, and you can also have an in situ brick making for the plants. That will save you. And these plants have been designed about 40 years, 60 years, thermal this thing. It is time. We don't use water for sludge, for making that sludge. Is there any possibility of NERI and CSR doing some work on this? That's it.
Thank you very much for the questions. First, about the silica content. This is lots of impurities are there, but the purity is around 14 to 15% only. And about the process of the pond ash, this pond ash itself is saying it is a slurry form, 1:6 ratio. 1% is the fly ash, and the fly ash plus bottom ash. That is in my presentation I showed you, I have given the 3 definitions. The 1% is the heterogeneous mixture of fly ash and bottom ash, and 6 portion is the water. So actually, why we have my study is emphasized on pond ash, because the pond ash itself is contaminating groundwater. This is the major factor that I am taking care of. So that is why should not we remove the pond ash from the ash pond immediately in the bulk quantities, so that groundwater contamination get reduced. The third point that you have asked about, the conventional method that we are using for long run about the process. Still it is under process to rectify it, and in fact I'd like to say you that recently we have submitted one project in DST regarding the finding out the nanoparticles from the pond ash, and in fact not only from the pond ash but from the fly ash itself, from the chimneys, so that the strength properties of the fly ash can be checked, and for the better utilization, not only in the bulk quantity in highway or embankment construction, but for the other field also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for the wonderful presentation. They were very informative and very interesting. I have 3 small questions to Dr. Anil Kumar from Delhi government. So firstly, why is it that, I've implemented a zero waste project in Pune which got an ISO certification last year, and now the Pune Municipal Corporation is extending it to 25 other wards, and they want to extend it to every other ward. So we've shown that it is possible for every ward to manage its own waste. Why don't we try something like that in Delhi, where you tell every ward you manage your own waste, you have your own land and do whatever you want with it? Secondly, why isn't the law of every housing society having to manage its own, at least organic waste and dry waste sorting, it can do on its own? Why isn't that law being implemented strictly in Delhi? And thirdly, rat pickers in Delhi, I'm sure you've heard this before, but I want to hear your answer to it. Rat pickers in Delhi have been providing door-to-door collection services for decades to the citizens without charging any money from the government. And now the government is spending so much money on vehicles to do the same collection, which has been done for free. Now citizen taxpayer money is being used to fund vehicles to do work which has been done for free. Why is this sort of policy being adopted by Delhi government, please?
I think Delhi, the amount of waste, the quantity is so huge, more than 8,000 tons per day. And being particularly the land locked city, you can say, we don't have the land. If you provide in every block, everything's kind of waste management, sometime may not be possible. I'm just definitely trying both the way. It should be, whatever I spoke that, it should be both way, in the decentralized and centralized. We are trying different technological options, like over the bulk generator of the waste, maybe in RW area also. We're working in the Bhagidari with the RWA. We sponsored some project to different RWA, like in Defense Colony. We started one project. You can see the project, the RW is managing the waste and collection and then doing EM composting and other things. But there's limited quantity of waste you can manage, and because this is require a lot of initiative. And Delhi, everybody is so, busy. Nobody is like try to, give time for these kind of things. They consider this a government or the municipal body. Waste is normally considered, this is a job of the municipal body or the government. Once you have the like a stake or partnership kind of things, definitely, it requires segregation. What happened? Some segregation, you ask anybody, initial they will do for like 15 days, and after 15 days they will mix one, because nobody is at the particular in Delhi, a lot of work, particularly kitchen is done by the maid servant, things like, and they are doing, nobody is doing sometime the segregation there. And if you ask the maid servant, they're not doing that. So some segregation project we tried, in the area, particularly in Bhagidari, we conducted a lot of workshop with the Accord. Accord was the NGO here. Series of workshops conducted. It started for some time, and again because we need definitely citizen cooperation for that. So that's what the segregation, when the is not possible in some area, that's what the kind of the waste to energy, some kind of projects where you can manage the waste without segregation. That's for that. So that's what the municipal bodies, they are like one kind of a job is also to manage the waste also city. If you do in any kind of housing society or RW area, it's really practically not possible. We started number of times, but by legally you cannot 100% that you have to manage and things like that.
Okay, I have a question.
See, there are 3 questions. The lady there first, she'll get the chance, okay? Because she put her hand, then Professor Salman, then third is yours, okay? Yeah.
Thank you. My question, I'm Shamla Mani from NIUA. My question is addressed to the respected chairperson. After Dr. Shastri's presentation, you said that you made a very good case. Hope someone is listening. Can you please clarify that? Because I would like to clarify that NIUA is a think tank. We are an urban think tank. We are not the government, per se. I appreciate Mr. Shastri's analysis and his point of view. He's welcome to have his point of view. My analysis showed my point of view. So I don't understand what was it that you were
The point is there are policy issues. There are policy issues, and somebody has to listen to it. That's what I made, okay? Hope that clarifies.
Because
okay.
I suppose...
I didn't say anything about what he said against you or...
Yeah,
there are policy issues.
My question, the way I presented yesterday...
No, let's not
was
get
based
into
on
one-to-one.
the- yeah.
I just made that comment that there are policy issues to be resolved to make things work better, and so I said somebody is listening.
Yeah, I appreciate, whatever the,
No, it's okay.
the concessioner's point of view. You have your issues, you presented very well. We appreciate that.
Okay.
But as an urban think tank, we feel that, when you have very small cities and towns, the decentralized system is better, and that is what I presented here.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Professor Salman?
This is to Dr. Sarkar about ash ponds. See, a lot of work has been done in late 70s, 80s on the ash ponds and restoration of the ecological aspects of that. And BAC's thermal power station at Dahanu. I could see lots of these ash ponds you have shown on the Google side. Nowhere there is any kind of hesitation anybody is trying to do. The operators must do that. I think leguminous plants can survive very well. They also now can be thought of as a phytoremediator. That's one aspect. Secondly, I don't know, last so many years people have been started talking about waste management and thinking of taking a fly ash, making bricks and all that. I do not know how the concepts have been suddenly changed. When IEA was screening all these fly ash globally and finding out that these fly ash do have some radioactivity, some tracers like uranium, thorium, and particularly holmium, which is a really carcinogenic also. I don't know how everybody has forgotten talking about taking fly ash even as a composition, cement making, brick making and all that. I don't know where the concepts are lost. If you can throw some light on this, what a recent vision about and views about using fly ash.
Thank you very much, sir, for the question. I'd like to say you very interesting thing that we have taken recently, just 3 months back, we have taken the site of Badarpur to construct embankment in the 5-stage embankment where we will use Jafra plant to reduce the environment pollution in that particular area. So just we have started 3 months back with the help of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. So it is already the calculation part is over, so we have started the planting of those Jafra plant. So other thing I'd like to say you that about the aluminum content. It is in the still in the learning process because we are trying to find out the most. That is in my previous question answer I said you that I'm trying to find out the nanoparticles which can be used with those nanoparticles, whether what type of chemicals are there in the nanoparticles to calculate the chemical analysis, everything. It is still under beginning process. Probably within this year, we will find out in a very concrete steps by using the better utilization of it. Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I said about the fly ash, sir. Fly ash, not only the pond ash, but the fly, because pond ash is the second stage. When I use the fly ash and bottom ash with the ratio 1:6 in the slurry form to dispose it in a low-lying area, then it will come as a
Can you
pond ash.
take this on a one-to-one basis, please?
Yes, sir. I can give
Yeah,
because
you
of the
can
question.
discuss with them.
I'll talk with you in the tea break.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir,
There is a
last
question
question.
from, there is a question from, no, just a minute. After that, yeah.
Okay. Good morning to all. I am Anurag Gupta. I have a query with Dr. Vaishali Nandan. She has given a very good presentation.
Can you just hold your
Yeah.
mic?
My question is that how we can solve the problem of segregation related to the RDF? Because right now what happens in India that most of the RDF plants got failure because of the waste is not segregated. The waste which is required to make RDF, like that contains plastic, paper, rugs, this is the basic required to make an RDF. So how we can solve this problem?
It's okay. We are going through it.
See, the composition of RDF does not really include only paper or plastic. If you look at municipal waste, it would ideally include all forms of dry municipal waste which are which would have some kind of calorific value. It could be cloth, it could be leather, it could be jute, it could be waste cardboard, it could be waste paper. So it's actually a large bulk which is which would ideally comprise of RDF. Unfortunately, RDF is looked at only in the the plastic angle because the co-processing rules or the guidelines have only got plastic there. They do not have any other form of waste as it. Some cement industries have already started, using this material in bulk or whichever. That is why I was, trying to say that the end user needs to specify. So it could be fluff, it could be just baled like that, it could be bagged, but a lot of them are not wanting pellets because that's where the calorific value, varies. They are also then mixing it at the cement plant, or probably you will also in your RDF, when you utilize the RDF in the within your systems in the waste plant, also mix it with rice husk or some form of agricultural waste product to get it to a consistent level before really then burning it. But that process, till I have seen the process, I will not know. I have only seen the process for the cement plant. That's how I can tell you. So it's not only that process that we are that fraction that you are talking about. So it could be the entire dry waste that could go. Of course, it's an assumption that the householder has already sold everything to the kabadiwala, which all of us, even I stay in Delhi, I still do it. So to answer your question, I would, also want to answer his question. I pay to the RWA up to 1,200 to 1,500 per year to manage and sort and sell the waste at the RWA level before it really is picked up by SPML, which is which is the agency that's managing. So it's happening in my colony, so I'm also assuming that's happening in other colonies. Probably Mr. Mishra did not know. Okay, so that is,
Thank you. No.
Thank you.
Sir,
Let's give it to them.
I have one question.
No, just, I'll give you an opportunity, yeah.
Hello. My question is, my name is Tal. I'm an Israeli researcher in Indian waste management, and my question is for Dr. Anil Kumar. It's regarding, I have two questions. One is regarding to Delhi's metro. Delhi's metro has solved their environmental problem. They ban waste disposal. But that's ignoring the problem. That's not solving the problem. If there was, in Delhi metro, there are millions of passengers daily. Why not to use this public place for education, for awareness, for bringing segregation or any kind of environmental issues to the public? That's the first question. Second one is about transparency, especially new technologies when you want to implement them in India. And I'm talking about the Okla Timarpur facility for energy. How can the public access figures regarding to emissions, regarding to costs? I know that the Gazipur will allow every person to go from his computer at home to an internet site, and he can online see emissions. Why not to do this with Okla and with every new technology that you want to implement? Thank you.
No, it's the question and the answer. That is for him, Anil Kumar.
For your first question, the metro, we are trying all the awareness, the programs and campaign. For even segregation of waste, not only the metro, we are trying all media and including the eco clubs in schools and colleges and RWA also. Because we have in Delhi all the schools and the college, they have our eco club, environment club member. And every schools, we are giving not only the grant and all the training and the awareness programs are going on through our eco clubs. There's a very big network of the schools and colleges as our young environmental ambassadors. And also with the resident welfare associations, more than 3,000 RWA are the member of our Bhagidari network and Delhi government. So a lot of activity we're doing for awareness of this, including the segregation of the waste. We conducted workshop with the RWA, and all media we are using, not only the metro. For your second question, especially, can you just give this some especially what do you really want to ask this?
I want transparency in emissions, in decision-making regarding to technology decisions.
Okay. Already there is a system in the, one plant is working in the Okla. There are already the system is they have installed it, and shortly we're going to install the CCTV and other things like that, so that our regulator as a DPC, Delhi Pollution Control Committee, who is the regulatory body, and we can also monitor whatever the emissions are there. But every 15 days our team is going and monitoring. We're shortly going to kind of online system, so that we can have all the data of the emissions and other parameters.
No, others also to be given opportunity to a question.
Let's go to another question.
Others also to be given opportunity.
Yeah, okay.
So we cannot, I appreciate Anil Kumar's, his feeling. And definitely what he has said, he has seen the reality and has said the reality in the public platform as a government officer. Madam, my question is to Madam, this one. It is not a question, it is a sharing experience. So you have emphasized a lot on the RDF.
Yeah,
Definitely
please be brief.
Yeah, RDF is definitely a sustainable solution. But the problem is the reality having associated with the RDF industry. I want to share one thing with you. A saleable quality of RDF can be produced only when your yield is 33-34%. Then only you will have a saleable quality of RDF. In order to produce a salable quality of RDF, your captive consumption of power is enormous. You have to shred it to the extent desired, and this can only be combusted in cement kilns, but not in conventional boilers, because the conventional boilers are not equipped to take the feeding of RDF. So in a long term, sale of RDF on a commercial scale is a theory only to the best of our knowledge, because we have associated this. We could not sell even a kilo of RDF because I was associated with the industry. That is my feeling.
Okay, I think I want to, we have exceeded the time. I just wanted to say a few words before I close, because I didn't even speak in the beginning. From the discussion, I just thought I'll share some quick thoughts. One is, I don't know how many of you have read the Green Engineering 10 Commandments, and one of them, we are talking about waste, and one of the commandments says, thou shalt not covet the neighbor's waste. You know, so because waste is not waste at all. It's always looked at, according to green engineering, waste is looked at as a resource, not as a waste. So I think it's time people have to start thinking waste as a resource, and how do we, take that on to get rid of the problems associated with the waste. That is how it has to be looked at, but everybody wants to have solution to suit his or her interest. It's not going to happen. So we need to come out with a compromise, and everybody wants to say that this is not done, that is not done. That is true. And second is, societies in Maharashtra, as a chairman of a appraisal committee, we do not give environment clearance unless there is a local waste treatment facility. Let it be, most of them go for organic waste composting, because that is the one suitable for a small scale level, or even vermicomposting, but it is being done. So I don't see any reason why other states cannot follow that. The third thing is, this NIMBY is going to create us always a problem. Therefore, we need to, the environmental engineers and the social organizations have to come together and somehow solve this problem, because you cannot, as one side we say every city cannot have. I'm saying even a city like Pune is not able to take their waste to outside Pune, because the villages are blocking the road. And so the entire city of Pune was stinking for so many weeks. So this is going to happen in every other city. So how do we handle it? Waste have to be collected, taken to a place before it is processed. It cannot be done everything at one place. And it is going to have certain discomfort in some area, but then where is it going to be? Because if entire India is going to be objecting, then we are not going to solve the problem. So we need to resolve this. And policy guidelines, from hearing from many people, there are many policy guidelines. We have to revisit municipal solid waste management rules, and we have to revisit guidelines of MUD, and probably impress on MUD to issue some fresh guidelines to facilitate the municipal solid waste management rules and implementation. So thank you for the panels, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
From our behalf, we would like to thank the Chair, Dr. Devota, for conducting this